Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're diving into something that's been grabbing a ton of headlines and honestly sparking a lot of wild rumors. We're talking about the so-called billionaire escape plan. You know the drill. Private islands, remote megafarms, those crazy underground luxury bunkers. It sounds literally like something out of a sci-fi blockbuster, right? But let's take a step back. We're going to strip away all that sensationalism and treat this exactly for what it really is, a highly structured clinical wealth advisory briefing. We're looking at how the world's ultra-wealthy are basically allocating their capital to hedge against global uncertainty.
Okay, let's dive into this. Our audit today breaks down into 6 clear steps. First, going from hobbyists to high net worth. Second, auditing the global risk landscape. Third, bunkers as the ultimate insurance policy. Fourth, strategic assets and food security. Fifth, geographic and lifestyle diversification. And lastly, the final risk assessment.
So starting with Section 1, hobbyists to wealthy, a massive rebranding.
To really wrap our heads around this trend, we have to realize that the whole concept of emergency preparedness is completely shifted over the last few decades. I mean, for the longest time, when you heard preparedness, you probably pictured old-school hobbyists, right? Folks focused on traditional survivalism, trying to predict specific disasters, digging local shelters in the backyard. But today's elite have taken this to a completely different stratosphere. The modern ultra-high net worth individual isn't trying to guess the end of the world. No, they're focused on long-term contingency plans, massive global diversification, and strictly reducing risk. From a wealth manager's point of view, this isn't panic. It's a highly calculated hedge against a deeply uncertain future.
And that brings us to a pretty crucial realization. For the ultra-wealthy, preparedness is really just another form of insurance against large-scale uncertainty. Think about it for a second. These folks insure their businesses, their massive corporate assets, their mansions, their multi-million-dollar art collections. So why wouldn't they insure themselves against systemic global shocks? It completely reframes the whole idea of survival into a standard, albeit extreme, practice of risk management.
Moving on to Section 2, auditing global risk, the threat matrix.
Now, what's really interesting about this is, if this is all just a massive insurance policy, what exactly is driving this huge allocation of capital? What kind of threat matrix are they looking at? Well, honestly, it looks exactly like an elite corporate boardroom audit. We're talking economic instability, cybersecurity threats, geopolitical conflicts, supply chain disruptions, climate-related disasters, and massive technological disruption. The billionaires looking at this list aren't necessarily placing bets on which one will collapse the system. From an advisory standpoint, the question isn't whether a crisis will happen, but what kind of crisis might pop up next. It's the sheer variety of these threats that's dictating this modern preparedness strategy.
Which, of course, naturally begs the question, the one that drives endless speculation on the internet. Are they seeing something we don't? Like, do billionaires have some highly classified secret intel making them run for the hills?
Well, the analytical reality is actually much more grounded than that. Billionaires read the exact same headlines you and I do. There's no secret crystal ball here. The difference, really the only difference, is that they have the vast resources required to actually prepare for low-probability, high-impact events. We are talking about deploying tens of millions of dollars into autonomous compounds, places with multi-year food and independent energy reserves. It's simply having the capital to aggressively act on the exact same uncertainties that we all face every single day.
All right, Section 3. Bunkers as insurance, the ultimate policy.
Let's shift gears a bit and look at the actual physical assets in our hypothetical survival portfolio, starting with the most famous one. We really need to redefine the bunker. Seriously, forget those cramped underground tin cans from mid-century sci-fi panic. Today's luxury bunker, it's not a simple shelter. It's a high-end, physical insurance policy. It's designed to provide absolute protection and continuity during large-scale emergencies. It's a tangible, hardened asset. Just look at the sheer scale of capital expenditure pouring into these places. They feature state-of-the-art medical facilities, fully independent renewable energy systems, commercial-grade water purification, long-term food storage, and even vast recreational spaces. Now, proponents argue these facilities are absolutely vital for protection, while critics definitely see them as glaring symbols of growing global inequality. But regardless of where you stand on that debate, the demand for these secure shelters has absolutely skyrocketed. Preparedness is no longer a fringe hobby. It's a booming, multi-billion-dollar industry catering directly to the elite.
This brings us to Section 4, strategic farmland, yielding asset class.
So, if a bunker is your defensive physical asset,
What's the next yielding asset class in the survival portfolio? Well, the answer is rooted in one undeniably punchy statement. Food remains essential regardless of economic conditions. It literally doesn't matter what the stock market is doing, what currency is dominant, or what new tech disrupts our lives. People need to eat, period. And this foundational logic is driving a massive rush among the global elite to buy up remote agricultural land.
Farmland is arguably the perfect portfolio hedge for this demographic. I mean, look at the benefits here. It generates income right now. It produces vital physical resources. And historically, it retains its value remarkably well during periods of deep economic uncertainty. So it serves simultaneously as a financial asset for today and a strategic lifeline for tomorrow. As global concerns about food security keep growing, you can see exactly why agricultural land is becoming a total cornerstone of the Billionaires' escape plan. In fact, this is precisely why figures like Bill Gates have quietly become some of the largest private farmland owners in the United States.
Moving on to Section 5, Global Diversification, Geographic Hedging.
Here's where we see core, traditional investment principles being seamlessly applied to everyday life and physical geography. The underlying logic here is incredibly simple, but man, is it powerful. If one region experiences difficulties, opportunities might still exist elsewhere. Anyone who's ever glanced at a retirement account knows the golden rule, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. The world's wealthiest individuals are literally just applying that exact same diversification principle to their physical locations, their passports, and even their governments.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a practical step-by-step strategy. Step 1. Acquire international real estate. Step 2. Establish global investments to ensure your capital isn't tied down to just one currency or banking system. Step 3. Operate multiple businesses across different jurisdictions. And Step 4. Secure overseas residences and secondary passports. This whole strategy ensures that if a crisis hits one specific country, the individual's lifestyle, capital, and physical safety simply pivot. They just shift over to a backup location.
Finally, Section 6, the final risk assessment, myth versus reality.
Let's kind of summarize this whole clinical wealth manager perspective on the modern doomsday trend. We really have to separate the myth from the reality here. The myth is that these actions are panic-driven predictions. You know, the idea that these billionaires somehow know the end is near and disaster is imminent. But the reality, as we've seen throughout this explainer, is calm, resource-driven caution focused purely on managing risk. Preparing for deep uncertainty reflects pragmatism for those who can actually afford it. It's not some psychic prediction of doom. I mean, think about it. In an era defined by rapid technological change, profound geopolitical uncertainty, and constant economic disruption, preparation itself has basically become a highly valuable asset class. Whether these massive underground bunkers or remote island preparations will ever actually be needed, well, that's entirely unknown. But the simple act of being prepared holds immense value, and honestly, peace of mind in today's totally unpredictable landscape. I want to leave you with this powerful and honestly pretty sobering quote from our source material today. When some of the world's richest people spend billions preparing for uncertainty, people rightfully pay attention. The quote goes, "And perhaps the biggest question isn't what they're preparing for, it's whether the rest of the world is prepared for it too." Wow, it completely flips the narrative, doesn't it? It asks us to look at our own resilience in the face of an unpredictable future. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to really think about how these macro trends might impact the world we all share. See you next time.